The Gathering. A group of 5 friends, Elena, Alex, Mark, Sophia, and Daniel, decide to take a break from their busy lives and embark on a hiking adventure. They choose the mysterious Blackwood Forest, known for its legends and eerie stories passed down through generations. The Legend of Blackwood. The friends gather around a campfire, and Elena shares an old tale she heard from her grandmother. The legend says that Blackwood Forest is home to ancient spirits, hidden treasures, and a pathway to another world. No one who strayed from the path ever returned. The decision. Despite the ominous warnings, the friends decide to continue their plan, intrigued by the thrill of discovering the unknown. They prepare their gear and set a date for the hike. The arrival. The group arrives at the edge of Blackwood Forest early in the morning. The towering trees and dense fog give the forest an eerie, almost otherworldly feel. They take a deep breath and step onto the path. The first sign. As they venture deeper into the forest, they notice the sudden silence. No birds, no rustling leaves, just the sound of their footsteps. Alex spots strange carvings on a tree, symbols none of them can recognize. The fork in the road. The path splits into two, with one side looking well-trodden and the other overgrown and dark. Against better judgment, they choose the darker path, believing it might lead them to uncover the forest's secrets. The whispering trees. The further they go, the more they start to hear whispers carried by the wind. It's as if the trees themselves are talking. Mark dismisses it as the wind, but Sophia is not so sure. The first night. As night falls, they set up camp. The forest seems to come alive in the dark, with shadows moving and indistinct shapes lurking just beyond the firelight. Sleep is elusive, as each friend struggles with an uneasy feeling. The unseen watcher. The next morning, they find strange footprints around their camp, unlike any animal tracks they've seen. It's clear they're not alone, but whatever is out there remains unseen. The abandoned cabin. They stumble upon an old, abandoned cabin deep in the woods. It looks like it's been there for centuries. They decide to investigate, hoping to find some clues about the forest's history. The journal. Inside the cabin, Elena finds an old journal filled with frantic notes and sketches of the forest. The last entry speaks of a hidden altar deep within Blackwood, rumored to hold immense power. The warning. The journal ends abruptly with a warning: do not seek the altar, for it is a place where the veil between worlds is thin. What lies beyond is not meant for human eyes. The disappearance. As they continue their journey, Daniel suddenly goes missing. One moment he's there, and the next, he's gone without a trace. Panic sets in as they search frantically, calling his name. The mysterious stranger. Out of nowhere, a mysterious old man appears on the path. He warns them to leave the forest before it's too late, saying that those who stay too long are claimed by the forest itself. The decision to stay. Despite the warning, the group decides to stay and find Daniel. They believe they're close to uncovering the truth about Blackwood Forest and can't turn back now. The forest awakens. As the group continues deeper into Blackwood Forest, they notice the forest becoming more alive. The trees seem to whisper to each other, and the ground pulses as if it has a heartbeat. The air is thick with anticipation. The enchanted clearing. They stumble upon a clearing where the trees are arranged in a perfect circle. The ground is covered in strange symbols, glowing faintly. In the center stands an ancient oak, its branches twisted and gnarled, as if reaching out to them. The unseen presence. As they explore the clearing, they feel a presence watching them. No one can see anything, but they all sense it, an invisible force observing their every move. The hairs on the back of their necks stand up as they realize they are not alone. The moving shadows. The shadows in the forest begin to move independently, creeping closer to the group. They form shapes and figures, mimicking their movements. The friends try to keep their distance, but the shadows grow bolder, closing in on them. The echoes of the past. As the shadows close in, the group begins to hear echoes, faint whispers of conversations from long ago. The voices are filled with fear and desperation, warning them to leave before it's too late. The forest seems to be showing them glimpses of those who came before. The ghostly apparition. The friends suddenly see a ghostly figure appear among the trees. It's a woman dressed in old-fashioned clothing, her face pale and sorrowful. She gestures toward a path that was previously hidden, urging them to follow. The hidden path. The group hesitates, but decides to follow the ghostly woman's directions. The path she reveals is narrow and overgrown, almost invisible to the untrained eye. As they walk, they notice the atmosphere growing colder, and the sounds of the forest begin to fade. The first clue. The hidden path leads them to an ancient stone slab covered in moss. When they clear it off, they find carvings depicting a ritual, a group of people standing around an altar, offering something to the forest spirits. It's the first concrete clue about the altar they've heard of. The mysterious symbols. As they study the carvings, they notice strange symbols etched into the stone. Elena realizes these symbols match those they've seen throughout the forest, on trees and stones. They seem to be a language or a warning, but none of them can decipher it. The vanishing woman. When they look up from the stone slab, the ghostly woman is gone. In her place, they find a small wooden box hidden among the roots of a tree. Inside the box is an ancient, worn map that appears to lead to the altar. The strange occurrences. As they follow the map, strange things begin to happen. The trees seem to shift positions when they're not looking, and the sky darkens unnaturally quickly. They hear distant cries and rustling in the bushes, but when they check, there's nothing there. The forest's warning. The map leads them to a large oak tree with the same symbols carved into its bark. The tree seems to pulse with energy, and when they touch it, they hear a deep, resonant voice in their minds, warning them to turn back while they still can. The hidden message. Ignoring the warning, they continue their journey. Along the way, they find more symbols carved into rocks and trees. Alex, who has been sketching everything in his notebook, realizes that the symbols form a message, a riddle that points them toward the altar. The growing dread. As they decipher the riddle, the feeling of dread intensifies. The forest feels more oppressive, and the air is thick with tension. They begin to argue more frequently, the stress of their situation taking a toll on their unity. The final clue. The riddle leads them to an old, dilapidated bridge over a fast-moving river. On the other side, they see a faint glow in the distance, which they believe to be the altar. However, crossing the bridge feels like crossing a point of no return. The broken bridge. As they step onto the bridge, it begins to creak ominously. Halfway across, the wood splinters beneath their feet, and Daniel slips, almost falling into the rushing water below. The group manages to pull him back, but it's clear that the bridge is barely holding together. The first loss. Just as they're about to reach the other side, the bridge gives way completely. Sophia, who is at the back of the group, falls into the river. Despite their desperate attempts to save her, she's swept away by the current, her screams echoing through the forest. The splintering unity. The loss of Sophia devastates the group. Blame and guilt consume them, and they begin to turn on each other. Elena blames herself for insisting on crossing the bridge, while Alex becomes withdrawn, refusing to speak. The path to the altar. Despite their grief, they push on, driven by a sense of duty to uncover the truth. The path to the altar is steep and treacherous, lined with sharp rocks and dense underbrush. As they climb, they feel the weight of the forest pressing down on them. The strange markings. As they near the altar, they notice the trees are marked with symbols similar to those on the stone slab. The markings are fresher, as if someone or something recently etched them into the bark. The symbols seem to pulse with an eerie light. The enchanted forest. The forest around them begins to change. The trees twist and contort, their branches reaching out like claws. The ground becomes spongy, and the air is filled with a thick, sweet scent that makes them dizzy. They realize they've entered a part of the forest that is enchanted. The disappearance. As they navigate the enchanted forest, Mark suddenly vanishes. One moment he's there, and the next he's gone, without a trace. The remaining friends search frantically, but there's no sign of him. It's as if the forest swallowed him whole. The heart of darkness. With only 3 of them left, the group presses on. The path leads them deeper into the heart of the forest, where the trees are so dense that almost no light gets through. They feel the presence of something ancient and powerful watching them. The test of unity. As they reach the edge of the forest, the ground opens up before them, revealing a deep chasm. The only way across is a narrow, crumbling ledge. They must work together to cross it, but their frayed nerves and broken trust make it difficult. The final push. Exhausted and terrified, they finally reach the clearing where the altar stands. The air is thick with energy, and they can feel the power emanating from the ancient stones. They know they're close to uncovering the truth, but they also know that the worst is yet to come. The altar revealed. The altar is a massive stone structure, covered in intricate carvings that glow with an otherworldly light. The carvings depict scenes of rituals, sacrifices, and the spirits that inhabit the forest. The friends realize that the altar is a gateway between worlds. The spirit story. As they examine the altar, they hear whispers on the wind, voices telling the story of the forest spirits. The spirits were once protectors of the forest, but were corrupted by a dark force that turned them into malevolent beings. The altar is the source of their power. The guardian's warning. Suddenly, a figure appears before them, a guardian of the forest, draped in shadows. The guardian warns them that the altar is a dangerous place, and that tampering with it could release the spirit's full wrath. It offers them a choice: leave now, or face the consequences. The hidden chamber. Elena notices a hidden door at the base of the altar. Despite the guardian's warning, she feels compelled to open it. Inside, they find a chamber filled with ancient artifacts, scrolls, and a large, glowing crystal. The crystal pulses with the same energy as the altar. The crystal's power. As they approach the crystal, they feel its power coursing through them. It's intoxicating, filling them with a sense of invincibility. But with the power comes a darkness that threatens to consume them. They must decide whether to use the crystal's power or destroy it. The spirits bargain. The spirits of the forest appear, offering the group a bargain. If they use the crystal to strengthen the altar, the spirits will grant them knowledge and power beyond their wildest dreams. But if they refuse, the spirits will do everything in their power to stop them. The division. The group is torn. Elena and Daniel are tempted by the spirit's offer, seeing it as a way to honor their fallen friends. But Alex is adamant that they cannot trust the spirits and must destroy the altar to free the forest from its curse. The Guardian's plea. The Guardian returns, pleading with them to destroy the altar. It reveals that it was once a human, like them, who was trapped in the forest after succumbing to the spirit's influence. It warns them that the spirit's promises are empty and that their only hope is to leave the forest forever. The ultimate choice. Faced with conflicting advice, the group must make a choice: strengthen the altar and gain the spirit's power, or destroy it and free the forest from its curse. The decision will determine not only their fate, but the fate of the entire forest. The choice made. After much deliberation, the group decides to destroy the altar. They realize that the power the spirits offer is not worth the cost, and that freeing the forest is the only way to honor their lost friends. They prepare to carry out the ritual that will shatter the altar. The descent. To destroy the altar, they must descend into the depths beneath it, where the source of its power lies. The path is treacherous, with steep drops and narrow ledges, and the air grows colder the deeper they go. The trials of courage. As they descend, they are faced with trials that test their courage and resolve. They must confront their deepest fears, visions of their lost friends, their own deaths, and the dark force that corrupts the forest. Each trial pushes them closer to the breaking point. The Chamber of Trials. They reach a massive chamber, filled with ancient traps and puzzles designed to protect the altar's power source. The walls are covered in glowing runes, and the air is thick with the scent of burning incense. They must work together to solve the puzzles and avoid the traps. The Blood Sacrifice. To pass through the final door, a blood sacrifice is required. Daniel volunteers, believing that his blood will be enough to open the door. He cuts his hand and places it on the altar, watching as the door slowly opens, revealing the inner sanctum. The Inner Sanctum. The Inner Sanctum is a small, circular chamber with a single stone pedestal in the center. On the pedestal rests a black crystal, pulsing with dark energy. The walls of the chamber are covered in carvings of the spirits. As they approach the crystal, their eyes glowing appear once more, demanding that they leave the chamber. They warn that if the crystal is destroyed, the spirits will be unleashed upon the world, bringing death and destruction. The group must decide whether to destroy the crystal or leave it intact. The Act of Destruction. Elena steps forward, determined to end the spirit's reign of terror. She raises the crystal above her head and brings it crashing down onto the pedestal, shattering it into a million pieces. The chamber trembles as the spirits wail in agony, their power fading away. The Collapse. With the crystal destroyed, the inner sanctum begins to collapse. The walls crack and crumble, and the ground shakes violently. The group must flee the chamber before it's too late, dodging falling debris and collapsing floors. The Escape. They race through the collapsing corridors, their hearts pounding in their chests. The path back to the surface is blocked by rubble, but they find a hidden tunnel that leads them to safety. They emerge into the forest, gasping for breath as the ground continues to shake. The forest awakens. As they stand outside the collapsing altar, they feel the forest begin to change. The air is filled with the sound of birdsong, and the trees seem to breathe a sigh of relief. The dark force that had corrupted the forest is gone, and the spirits are finally at peace. The Guardian's Thanks. The Guardian appears before them, its form no longer shrouded in darkness. It thanks them for freeing the forest and offers them safe passage back to the edge of the woods. It also warns them that the journey is not over, as the spirit's power may still linger. The Path Home. The journey back to the forest's edge is long and arduous, but the group feels a sense of relief knowing that they've done the right thing. The path is clearer now, the forest less menacing, and they begin to believe that they might make it out alive. The lingering darkness. Despite the Guardian's promise, they can't shake the feeling that something is still watching them. The shadows are no longer as threatening, but they still feel a presence, a lingering darkness that refuses to let them go. The Diverging Paths. The group comes to a crossroads in the forest. One path leads to the edge of the woods, while the other seems to go deeper, back toward the altar. The group must decide whether to continue on the safe path or investigate the remaining darkness. The Pull of the Unknown. Elena feels a strong pull toward the darker path, as if something is calling her back. Despite the others' protests, she decides to follow it, convinced that there's still something they need to uncover. Reluctantly, the others follow her. The Forbidden Glade. The darker path leads them to a glade they've never seen before. The trees here are ancient, their branches twisted and gnarled. In the center of the glade stands a single, massive tree, its bark blackened and scarred. They sense that this is the source of the lingering darkness. the heart of the forest. As they approach the tree, they feel a wave of malevolent energy wash over them. The tree is the heart of the forest's corruption, the source of the spirit's power. They realize that destroying the altar was only the first step. The true battle lies ahead. The forest's guardian. The guardian reappears, but this time it's different. Its form is twisted, corrupted by the tree's dark energy. It no longer recognizes them as allies and attacks, determined to protect the tree at all costs. The final battle. The group must fight for their lives against the Guardian and the dark forces that control it. The battle is fierce, and they're pushed to their limits, but they refuse to give up. They know that if they fail, the forest will never be free. The tree's destruction. In a desperate final act, Daniel sacrifices himself to destroy the tree. He uses the last of his strength to ignite a fire at the base of the tree, burning it to ashes. The darkness begins to lift, and the forest is finally freed from its curse. The aftermath. With the tree destroyed and the guardian defeated, the forest begins to heal. The sky clears, and sunlight filters through the trees for the first time in centuries. The group is exhausted, but they feel a sense of accomplishment knowing that they've saved the forest. The spirits farewell. The spirits of the forest appear one last time, no longer twisted and malevolent. They thank the group for freeing them and offer their blessings before fading away into the light. The forest feels lighter, more peaceful. The walk to freedom. The group begins the long walk back to the edge of the forest. The path is now clear and straightforward, as if the forest itself is guiding them home. They walk in silence, each lost in their own thoughts about what they've been through. The edge of the forest. As they approach the edge of the forest, they see the familiar sights of the outside world, their cars, the road, and the open sky. It feels like a lifetime since they last saw these things, and they realize how much they've changed. The final hurdle. Just as they're about to leave the forest, they encounter one last obstacle, a thick fog that rolls in suddenly, blocking their path. They know that this is the forest's final test, a last attempt to keep them from leaving. The fog's challenge. The fog is disorienting, making it difficult to see or hear anything. They struggle to stay together, calling out to each other as they navigate the dense mist. It's a test of their unity and determination, and they must rely on their bond to make it through. The fog lifts. Finally, the fog begins to lift, revealing the road ahead. They can see the edge of the forest just a few steps away, and the sight of it fills them with relief. They know that they've passed the forest's final test, the return to reality. As they step out of the forest, the weight of their journey begins to lift. The sounds and sights of the outside world are overwhelming, but they're grateful to be back. They take a moment to breathe in the fresh air, feeling a sense of freedom they haven't felt in days. The missing time. As they return to their cars, they realize that time has passed differently in the forest. What felt like days to them was only a few hours in the outside world. It's a strange, unsettling realization, but they're too exhausted to dwell on it. The last goodbye. They say their goodbyes, knowing that their bond will never be the same. The forest has changed them, and they each carry the weight of their experiences differently. They part ways, promising to stay in touch, but knowing that the forest will always be a part of them. The days after. In the days following their return, the friends struggle to adjust to normal life. The memories of the forest haunt them, and they find it difficult to explain what they've been through to those who weren't there. The unseen scars. Each of them discovers scars from their journey, marks on their bodies that weren't there before. The scars are in the shape of the symbols they saw in the forest, a permanent reminder of what they faced. The nightmares. They begin to experience nightmares, vivid and terrifying. In their dreams, they're back in the forest, reliving the worst moments of their journey. The nightmares are so real that they wake up in a cold sweat, unable to shake the fear. The lingering darkness. Despite the forest being far behind them, they still feel its presence. Shadows seem darker, and the air feels colder. They sense that the forest's darkness is still with them, lurking in the corners of their minds. The fractured friendships. The bond that held them together in the forest begins to fray. They argue more frequently, the stress of their shared experience driving a wedge between them. They try to stay close, but the memories of what they lost make it difficult. The search for answers. Elena becomes obsessed with finding answers. She researches the history of Blackwood Forest, trying to understand what happened and why. She uncovers stories of others who ventured into the forest and were never seen again. The forgotten memory. One day, Alex discovers a memory he had forgotten, a moment in the forest where he saw a glimpse of another world, a world beyond the forest. The memory is hazy, but it hints at something more, something they missed. The call of the forest. Daniel begins to hear a faint call in the back of his mind, a whisper that grows louder each day. It's the forest calling him back. He tries to ignore it, but the pull is strong, and he fears what it means. The unfinished business. The friends realize that their journey isn't over. There's something unfinished, something they need to go back and resolve. They agree to meet one last time, to confront whatever is calling them back to the forest. The decision to return. They gather at the edge of Blackwood Forest, knowing that this time, it's different. The forest is no longer an enemy, but it's not a friend either. They must return to face whatever is left and, finally, put the past behind them. The final entry. As they step into the forest once more, they feel a sense of closure. The forest is quieter, the air less oppressive. They follow the familiar path, now overgrown but still recognizable, knowing that this will be their final journey. The Guardian's gift. The Guardian, now free from its dark influence, appears before them. It offers them a gift, a way to seal their connection to the forest for good. The gift is a small, glowing stone, imbued with the forest's remaining power. The ritual of closure. To use the stone, they must perform a final ritual at the site of the destroyed altar. The ritual will sever their ties to the forest, allowing them to move on with their lives without the lingering darkness. The final walk. As they walk to the site of the altar, they talk about their journey, sharing memories and emotions they had kept hidden. The walk feels cathartic, a way to finally let go of the fear and pain they've carried. The silent altar. They reach the altar, now nothing more than rubble and ash. The site is peaceful, almost serene. They place the stone in the center of the ruins and begin the ritual, chanting the words the Guardian taught them. The release. As the ritual reaches its climax, they feel a wave of energy wash over them. The stone glows brightly before fading to dust, and with it, the last remnants of the forest's darkness are gone. They feel lighter, as if a great burden has been lifted. The spirit's blessing. The spirits of the forest appear one final time, their forms now peaceful and whole. They bless the group, thanking them for freeing the forest and themselves. The spirits fade away, leaving behind a sense of calm and closure. The forest's farewell. As they leave the forest for the last time, the trees seem to part for them, guiding them back to the edge. The forest is no longer a place of danger, but a place of peace. They say their final goodbyes, knowing they'll never return. The new beginning. Back in the outside world, they find it easier to move on. The nightmares stop, the scars fade, and the darkness that once haunted them is gone. They begin to rebuild their lives, stronger and wiser for the experience. The legacy of the forest. Years later, they still think of Blackwood Forest, not with fear, but with a sense of respect. The forest has become a part of them, a reminder of the strength they found in each other and themselves. They know that, in some way, the forest will always be with them, but they are no longer afraid. The Path of Shadows. As the friends venture deeper into the forest, they notice the path beneath their feet beginning to fade. The ground becomes soft, almost like walking on clouds, but with every step, the shadows around them grow thicker. The Mirror Pool. They stumble upon a small, perfectly still pool of water, reflecting the sky despite the dense canopy above. When they look into it, they don't see their own reflections, but instead, distorted visions of themselves, altered in disturbing ways. Visions of the past. One by one, the friends begin to experience strange visions, glimpses of people from different eras, all trapped within the forest. Some are explorers, others villagers, and all of them seem to be searching for something they can never find. The echoing cries. As they move away from the pool, they hear cries echoing through the forest. The voices are pleading, desperate, but when they try to follow them, they end up walking in circles. The Circle of Stones. They come across a circle of ancient stones covered in moss and strange runes. The atmosphere here is heavy, and they feel as if they're being watched. Elena suggests this might be a place of power, possibly linked to the altar mentioned in the journal. The Awakening. The stones begin to glow with a faint, eerie light. As the friends watch in horror, the ground trembles, and from the center of the circle, a figure begins to rise, a guardian of the forest, bound to protect its secrets. The Test of Will. The guardian speaks in a language they cannot understand, but its intent is clear. Each friend is subjected to a test, a challenge that delves into their deepest fears and regrets. They must face these trials to proceed. Elena's trial. Elena finds herself alone in a darkened version of her childhood home. She must confront the memories of a lost loved one, overcoming the guilt she has carried for years. Mark's trial. Mark is surrounded by flames, reminiscent of a fire he narrowly escaped as a child. To survive, he must conquer his fear and find the strength within himself to push forward. Sophia's trial. Sophia is trapped in a maze of mirrors, each reflection distorting her image until she no longer recognizes herself. Her challenge is to find the true version of herself amidst the illusions. Alex's trial. Alex is forced to relive a tragic accident from his past, one that claimed the life of a close friend. He must forgive himself and understand that he was not to blame. The Guardian's verdict. After successfully passing their trials, the Guardian steps aside, allowing them to continue. But it warns them that the challenges ahead will be even greater, testing not only their strength, but their very souls. The Bridge of Mist. The group finds a narrow, mist-covered bridge that stretches across a deep chasm. There's no visible bottom, and the mist seems alive, shifting and swirling as if trying to pull them in. The Silent River. Beneath the bridge, they hear the sound of water, but when they look down, there's only darkness. The silence is deafening, and they feel a sense of dread as they cross, one by one. The Forest's Lament. On the other side, the forest seems to mourn. The trees weep with sap, and the wind carries a sad, melodic tune. They sense they're nearing something important, but the sorrow of the forest weighs heavily on them. The Fading Map. As they consult their map, it begins to fade, the ink disappearing before their eyes. It's as if the forest itself is erasing their path, trying to trap them within its boundaries. The Ancient Altar. Finally, they reach the ancient altar described in the journal. It's a massive stone structure, covered in vines and surrounded by statues of forgotten gods. The air is thick with power, and they feel a presence watching them. The Ritual. Elena reads from the journal, deciphering a ritual that is meant to reveal the altar's true purpose. They gather the necessary items, herbs, stones, and water from the mirror pool, and prepare to perform the ritual. The veil lifts. As the ritual concludes, a blinding light envelopes the altar. The veil between worlds lifts, revealing a portal to another realm. They see glimpses of a land untouched by time, filled with creatures both beautiful and terrifying. The temptation. The portal beckons them, offering knowledge, power, and the answers to all the mysteries they've encountered. But it also feels wrong, like a trap waiting to ensnare them. The Guardians return. The Guardian reappears, warning them that crossing through the portal will change them forever. Those who enter will never be the same, for they will carry the essence of the other world within them. A difficult choice. The group is divided. Elena and Alex are drawn to the portal, tempted by the knowledge it promises. Mark and Sophia, however, feel an overwhelming urge to close it, fearing the consequences. The echoes of the past. As they debate, the portal begins to show them visions of the past, a time when the forest was young and the altar was used by ancient civilizations. They see the sacrifices, the rituals, and the reasons why the portal was sealed. The shadows approach. Suddenly, shadows begin to emerge from the portal, dark figures that seem to be made of pure malice. The friends realize that these entities have been trapped for a reason, and releasing them would bring disaster. The Guardian's sacrifice. The Guardian steps forward, ready to seal the portal once more. But it needs their help. Together, they must perform a final ritual, one that will require a sacrifice. The decision. The group realizes that the sacrifice must be one of them. Daniel, who has been missing, reappears, now understanding his role. He offers himself willingly, knowing that this is the only way to save his friends and the world beyond. The final ritual. With heavy hearts, they begin the ritual. The air crackles with energy, and the ground shakes as the portal begins to close. Daniel steps into the light, and with a final, tearful goodbye, he disappears. The portal sealed. The portal closes with a thunderous roar, and the forest falls silent. The altar crumbles, and the statues collapse, their power drained. The friends feel a profound sense of loss, but also relief. The forest's gift. As they prepare to leave, the forest seems to acknowledge their sacrifice. The trees part, revealing a clear path out. A gentle breeze carries a whisper of thanks, and they feel a warmth that was absent before. The long walk home. The journey back is somber. The friends walk in silence, each lost in their thoughts. The forest no longer feels hostile, but there's a sadness in its stillness, as if it's mourning the loss of its guardian. The return. When they finally reach the edge of the forest, they find their car untouched, as if no time has passed. But they know that everything has changed. The experience has left a mark on them all. The unseen scars. Back in the safety of their homes, they try to return to their normal lives. But the memories of the forest haunt them. They see shadows in the corners of their eyes, hear whispers in the wind, and dream of the portal. The forgotten friend. Daniel's absence is felt deeply. His sacrifice weighs heavily on them, and they struggle with the guilt of leaving him behind. They visit his family, who strangely have no memory of him ever existing. The mystery deepens. As they investigate, they discover that all traces of Daniel have been erased. Photos, records, even his belongings are gone. It's as if he never existed, leaving the group questioning their own sanity. The forgotten forest. The friends decide to return to Blackwood Forest, hoping to find answers. But when they arrive, they find that the forest has changed. The entrance is overgrown, and the path they once walked is gone. The vanishing journal. Elena looks for the journal they found in the cabin, but it's missing. She remembers leaving it on her shelf, but now there's no trace of it. The knowledge they gained seems to be slipping away, just like Daniel. The encounter. One night, Mark encounters a figure in the woods near his home. It's a shadowy silhouette that resembles Daniel. The figure doesn't speak, but its presence is both comforting and unsettling. The warning. The figure gestures for Mark to stay away from the forest, conveying a silent warning. Before he can respond, it vanishes into the night, leaving him with more questions than answers. The journal returns. One morning, Elena finds the journal back on her shelf, but it's different. The pages are blank, except for a single message: remember, but do not return. The shared vision. That night, the group experiences a shared dream. They're back at the altar, but it's no longer in ruins. The guardian is there, watching over them, but so is Daniel, standing by the portal with a sad smile. The new guardian. In the dream, Daniel speaks, telling them that he's become the new guardian of the forest. He's at peace, but he warns them that the forest is still dangerous and that the portal could reopen if disturbed. The forest calls. Sophia begins to hear the forest calling to her during the day. It's a soft, melodic sound that pulls at her, beckoning her to return. She struggles to resist, knowing the dangers that lie within. The new map. Alex finds a map in his mailbox one day, marked with the same symbols they saw in the forest. It shows a different part of Blackwood, one they haven't explored. The temptation to go back grows stronger. The signs. Around town, they start noticing signs that something is wrong. Animals act strangely, plants wither and die without reason, and people begin to speak of odd occurrences in the woods. The vanishing landmarks. Landmarks they once knew start to vanish, as if being swallowed by the forest. Streets they used to walk down lead nowhere, and buildings disappear overnight, leaving only empty lots. The gathering darkness. At night, a strange darkness begins to creep into their homes, a shadow that seems to have a life of its own. It's cold, and they feel a sense of dread whenever it appears. The mark on the wrist. Elena discovers a mark on her wrist, resembling the symbols they saw in the forest. It glows faintly in the dark and grows warmer when she thinks about Blackwood. The unspoken fear. The group meets to discuss their experiences, but they're all afraid to say what they're really thinking, that the forest isn't done with them yet, and that something is coming. The return of the stranger. The mysterious old man who warned them before reappears, this time in their dreams. He tells them that they've been marked by the forest, and that their only hope is to sever the connection before it consumes them. The connection. They realize that the forest's influence is growing stronger. The more they think about it, the more it pulls them in. They need to find a way to break the connection before it's too late. The research. Elena dives into research, looking for any information on ancient rituals or spells that could sever their bond with the forest. She uncovers references to a cleansing ritual that might be their only hope. The ritual components. The ritual requires rare components, some of which can only be found in the forest itself. This means they'll have to return to Blackwood, despite the risks. The reluctant return. With heavy hearts, the group prepares for one final journey into the forest. They know the dangers, but realize they have no other choice. This time, they bring everything they might need to survive. The final journey begins. The group enters the forest once more, immediately sensing that it's different this time. The trees seem closer, the shadows darker, and the air thick with tension. The guardians whisper. As they move deeper, they hear a familiar voice, Daniel's. He warns them that the forest is angry and that they must hurry, for the portal is beginning to stir once again. The gathering storm. A storm brews overhead, the sky darkening as thunder rumbles in the distance. The wind howls through the trees, making the forest seem alive and hostile. The ghostly guide. A spectral figure appears before them, Daniel's spirit, now fully a part of the forest. He leads them to the locations where they can find the components for the ritual. The hidden grove. They find the first component, a rare flower, in a hidden grove surrounded by towering trees. The air here is still, and they feel a sense of peace, but it's fleeting. The forbidden river. Next, They come across a river that wasn't on any map. Its waters are black as ink, and crossing it is treacherous. They need to gather a vial of this water, but touching it burns their skin. The blood of the earth. The final component is deep within the forest, a tree that bleeds when cut. They collect the sap, knowing it's the last piece of the ritual, but the forest seems to close in around them as they do. The altar revisited. They return to the site of the altar, now just ruins. The atmosphere is heavy, and they feel as if the forest itself is watching their every move. The cleansing ritual. Elena begins the ritual, chanting words from the journal. The components are placed on the altar, and the air crackles with energy. But something is wrong. The ritual isn't working. The portal's awakening. The ground shakes, and the portal begins to open once more. This time, it's stronger, more violent, and the shadows that emerge are filled with rage. The desperate fight. The friends are forced to fight off the shadows, but they're outnumbered. It becomes clear that the ritual alone won't be enough. They need to make another sacrifice. The sacrifice of light. Sophia, understanding what must be done, steps forward. She offers herself to the forest, her light as a counterbalance to the darkness. The shadows hesitate, and the portal begins to waver. The final goodbye. As Sophia enters the portal, it begins to close. The light from her sacrifice pushes back the darkness, sealing the portal once and for all. The forest falls silent once more. The aftermath. The group is left standing in the ruins of the altar, stunned and heartbroken. The connection to the forest is severed, but the cost was high. They've lost another friend. The escape. They quickly make their way out of the forest, not looking back. The path seems to stretch on forever, but eventually, they see the light of dawn breaking through the trees. The silent farewell. When they reach the edge of the forest, they turn to look back one last time. The forest is still, and they sense a final farewell from Sophia, her spirit now part of the forest's essence. The return to life. Back home, the group struggles to move on. The memories of their journey linger, but the forest no longer haunts their dreams. They try to return to their daily lives, but everything feels different. The lost time. They discover that while they were in the forest, days turned into weeks. Their loved ones were worried, but strangely, they remember very little about the time that passed. The missing memories. As they talk more, they realize that their memories of the forest are starting to fade. Important details, even entire events, become blurry, as if the forest is erasing itself from their minds. The haunting whisper. Elena hears a whisper in her ear one night, calling her name. It's faint, but unmistakable. She wonders if it's the forest trying to pull her back, or just her mind playing tricks on her. The hidden scars. Each of them discovers a scar on their body, shaped like the symbols from the altar. They try to hide them, but the marks serve as a constant reminder of what they've lost. The unexplained phenomena. Around town, strange things begin to happen. Electronics malfunction, shadows move on their own, and animals act erratically. It's as if a part of the forest's darkness escaped with them. The reappearing stranger. The mysterious old man appears once more, this time in broad daylight. He approaches them with a warning. The forest may be silent, but its power is never truly gone. The search for answers. Determined to understand what's happening, Alex and Mark begin researching the old man. They uncover legends of a forest guardian who roams the world, keeping the balance between light and dark. The forgotten letter. Elena finds a letter in her mailbox, addressed to her in handwriting she doesn't recognize. Inside, it details events that haven't happened yet, foretelling a future encounter with the forest. The visions return. Sophia's voice returns in their dreams, warning them of a coming storm. She speaks of a new danger, something even the forest itself fears. They realize that their journey may not be over. The gathering of shadows. As the days pass, the shadows in their town grow darker, and the strange occurrences become more frequent. It's clear that something is building, and it's only a matter of time before it strikes. The final stand. The friends gather once more, realizing that they must face this new threat head-on. The forest may be behind them, but its influence lingers, and they must use what they've learned to protect their world. The ritual reborn. They consult the journal once more, finding that the pages are no longer blank. New instructions appear, guiding them through a ritual that will close the door to the forest forever, but it requires something they don't have. The missing piece. The final piece of the ritual is a rare artifact, hidden deep within the mountains. The group must embark on one last journey, this time to a place even older and more dangerous than the forest. The Mountain of Shadows. The mountains are treacherous, with steep cliffs and constant storms. But it's not just the elements they must face. Dark creatures, remnants of the forest's influence, stalk them through the night. The Hidden Cavern. They find a hidden cavern in the mountains, protected by ancient wards. Inside, they discover the artifact, a crystal that pulses with dark energy. Taking it feels wrong, but they know it's necessary. The return home. The journey back is perilous, but they manage to return to their town. The darkness is stronger now, but they have what they need to complete the ritual and end this once and for all. The darkening sky. The sky darkens as they prepare for the final ritual. The air is thick with tension, and they know that whatever comes next will determine their fate. The ritual begins. The ritual begins with the placement of the crystal on an ancient altar, this one hidden beneath their town. As the chants grow louder, the ground trembles and the shadows converge on them. The fight for survival. The shadows attack, trying to stop the ritual. The friends must fight with everything they have, knowing that if they fail, the darkness will consume them all. The final sacrifice. In the heat of battle, Alex realizes that the only way to stop the darkness is to merge with it. He steps into the shadows, becoming one with the forest's power, and uses it to seal the door. The silence. As the ritual completes, the shadows dissipate, and the darkness lifts. The town is quiet once more, and the friends are left standing around the altar, exhausted but victorious. The aftermath. The town begins to return to normal, but the friends know they've changed forever. The scars on their bodies may fade, but the memories of their journey will always remain. The farewell. Alex's sacrifice weighs heavily on them, but they know it was necessary. They visit his family, but just like with Daniel, it's as if he never existed. The forest has claimed him, erasing all traces of his life. The new guardian. Elena senses that a new guardian has been chosen, someone to watch over the balance between light and dark. She feels a connection to the forest, knowing that its power will never truly fade. The final letter. A letter arrives for each of them, written in Alex's handwriting. It's a farewell, a promise that he's at peace and that the forest is quiet for now. The closing chapter. The group gathers one last time, reflecting on everything they've been through. They've lost so much, but they've also gained a deeper understanding of the world and their place in it. The return to normalcy. Life slowly returns to normal. The town is peaceful, and the strange occurrences cease. But the friends know that they'll always be connected by their shared experience. The legacy. Years pass, and the friends grow older. They tell their children stories of the forest, warning them never to go near it. But deep down, they know that the forest's power is eternal. The echoes of the past. On quiet nights, they still hear the whispers of the forest, a reminder of what they faced and what they lost. The echoes of their journey linger, even as the world moves on. The Endless Watch. In the heart of Blackwood Forest, a new guardian stands watch. The forest is silent, but its power remains, waiting for the day when it will be called upon once more. The cycle is complete, but the story is far from over.